In the headlines tonight, Ethiopia and Djibouti agreed to beef up bilateral cooperation in various areas. UNFPA and Japan launch $1 million project for women and girls in Ethiopia. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I am Grum Tariku. Ethiopia and Djibouti have agreed to beef up their bilateral cooperation in various areas. The agreement was signed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Djibouti President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who has completed his 2 days working visit to Ethiopia. Alula Taklamariam has more.
Ethiopia and Djibouti have a long shared history. They have thousands of things in common: culture, language, religion, and living style, among others, are the bond connecting Ethiopians with their Djiboutian brothers and sisters. Moreover, the two nations have been cooperatively working in the economic sector. The recent state visit by the Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh is meant to boost the long-standing cooperation. Djibouti Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mohamed Ali Hassan, explains about the latest agreements of the two nations.
Two leaders discussed all issues relating to bilateral cooperation. We discussed about the energy, we discussed about water, how to promote trade through upgrading the performance of the logistics, the ports, the road. You know, Djibouti and Ethiopia has very integrated economies. Sometimes we are also quoted as a role model. Today, the visit of the president was really very successful. He has been discussing all these issues with his brother, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali. And I think that many things remain to be done, but generally speaking, it has been really very successful.
Meanwhile, Press Secretariat of the Prime Minister Office of Ethiopia, Bilene Suyum, underscored the effectiveness of the visit.
And part of that state visit is to strengthen bilateral relations between Ethiopia and Djibouti. As it's known, there has been long-standing relations, diplomatic relations, as well as cultural and historic ties between the people of Djibouti and the people of Ethiopia that spans almost a century. So part of these occasional meetings and these occasional interactions is to strengthen those relations. Both sides did raise the issue and the commitment to further strengthen the existing relations. They have talked about strengthening trade ties and the possibility of facilitating furthermore trade ties on what has already been undertaken thus far.
Finance Minister Ahmed Shidi also expresses optimism about the growing partnership of Ethiopia-Djibouti.
Both in terms of enhancing our road connectivity, in terms of building highways that connect with Djibouti corridor. In both sides, we have agreed on that one. We have also discussed in issues related to energy connectivity, and so the two leaders has also instructed us to work and speed up that. In addition to that, the water supply project which Djibouti has invested in Ethiopian territory, in eastern part of Ethiopia, in Somali region, it has some issues related to electricity connectivity. Prime Minister has gave direct authorization that we should urgently fix that one. And then the energy connectivity to this water supply project will enhance the water volume which is going to be harvested from the boreholes that will be transported via pipeline to Djibouti. This is a very unique project, the water supply project. It's transboundary water supply project for which Djibouti has invested and Ethiopia is hosting that investment.
Agreements was signed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who has completed his 2 days working visit to Ethiopia.
Professor Anna Fitzgerald says the indefinite humanitarian truce declared by the Ethiopian government is a positive step and shows the government's commitment towards peace. However, HR 6600 and S3199 bills undermine the government's initiative for peace. Anna pronounced. Shifarao Lako reports.
Parents move to ensure lasting solutions to internal problems. Ethiopia has declared humanitarian truce. So in your view, let me ask you this question. What are some of its implications in this regard? And what is your take on this latest move by the Ethiopian government?
It's a very positive move. It's even more positive that the TPLF has acknowledged that it intends to reciprocate as well. Time will tell how this all pans out. But you know, peace is very important. Getting humanitarian access to the communities in need and ensuring that aid delivery goes to those communities and is distributed in an expeditious and a comprehensive way, all must be the priority at the moment.
The United States of America seems to be interested in what is going on in Ethiopia, especially now that the government has decided to put this humanitarian truce. So should the government of Ethiopia be wary of this, or should they take it at face value? What do you think?
We're all very positive. It showed that not just the United States of America, but Western partners like the United Kingdom, the European Union, and others were all coming together and recognizing that this was indeed a good thing. I think the question that I would pose about the United States' position on this at the moment and on Ethiopia more generally is what is happening with these two bills that are being pushed forward in both the House and the Senate. Because it seems to me that the positive encouragement to the government in its move towards peace and the country in its move towards peace could be very quickly undermined by the content and the intentions embraced by those two bills. So, you know, I think we should take it generally as very positive in terms of the direction that the resolution, the gradual resolution to a long and unfortunate and tragic and unnecessary conflict is going in. But I think a lot hinges on these two bills that are being considered by both the House and the Senate in the United States at the moment.
In the name of stabilizing Ethiopia, some members of the U.S. Congress has drafted the bills of H.R. 6600 and S. 3199. Communication Director of the Ethiopian Diaspora Agency, Wondosen Girma, underscored that the intention of some members of the U.S. Congress who proposed H.R. 6600 and S. 3199 simply is to control the government who runs the country and suffer Ethiopians. Shagai Mata reports.
Sanctions are common methods imposed by the United States government on many countries across the world in the guise of bringing peace and democracy. Venezuela and Iran are among the countries sanctioned by the same country, but didn't bring any change to those countries, but only a suffering to the people. In the name of stabilizing Ethiopia, the members of the United States Congress drafted bills of H.R. 6600 and S.R. 3199. In an exclusive interview with ETV, Wondosen Girma, Communication Director of Ethiopian Diaspora Agency, underscored that the intention of 10 members of the United States Congress who proposed H.R. 6600 and S.R. 3199 is simply to control the government who runs the country and suffer Ethiopians.
When you look at the titles of the two draft bills, they talk about stability and democracy in Ethiopia. However, when we go deep dive into the contents of the bills, they do something else. They state something else. So, the two bills aspire to damage Ethiopia, not to stabilize or democratize it. For example, in the bills, it is stated that Ethiopia should be sanctioned economically, diplomatically, I would say militarily.
Wondosen further stated that diaspora should reignite the normal movement to those draft bills, adding that the diaspora are taking a huge stake through calling to U.S. representatives, petition and rallies.
We are witnessing Ethiopian Americans making voice calls to their representatives, telling them that you don't have to support the two bills. They are against Ethiopia, the state of Ethiopia. It's against the existence of our country. So they are telling them now and again. So calling to the representatives is one issue. The other one is petitioning. So the diaspora is doing a lot of petition. We are seeing them moving around in the social media. So petitioning is another one. Rallies. So Ethiopians across the world clearly understand why those bills are there. So what they have to do to avert the ratification of those bills is reigniting the normal movement.
Last week, the U.S. envoy appreciated the recent developments happening in Ethiopia and stated the two draft bills are not the interest of his administration.
የጅማ አይከን የሆነው አባ ጅፋር አደባባይ እዛ አገኛለሁ። እቺኛዋ የምታዩት የመጀመሪያው ቆንጆዋ በሬዱ ጅማ የሆነች አንድ ጀርመናዊ ወዷት አግብቷት ጀርመን የወሰዳት ልጅ።
Embassy of Japan in Ethiopia and the UNFPA jointly launched a $1 million project to improve health and protection needs of women and adolescent girls. The project, which is entitled Addressing Gender-Based Violence and Sexual Reproductive Health, will be implemented in selected conflict and COVID-19 affected districts of the Amhara and Benshangul Gumuz areas. Attending the launching ceremony, Johannes Fantown has produced the following story.
We are accountable for 4 outputs, especially for GBB, working on the service provision is not enough.
Gender-based violence and reproductive health problems have been major concerns in Ethiopia as a result of the war in the north and COVID-19. Evidence suggests men and girls were particularly vulnerable to sexual assaults, and the destruction of medical facilities made the situation sophisticated. UNFPA, which focuses on gender-based violence and reproductive health, along with the Japanese embassy to Ethiopia, has launched a $1 million project to support 80,000 women and girls into war-torn regions in Ethiopia.
The project we are launching today, entitled Addressing Gender-Based Violence and Sexual and Reproductive Health, will reach to the most vulnerable people affected by conflict and COVID-19 in selected districts in the Amhara and Benshangul Gumuz regions. We will be targeting 80,000 women, girls, boys, and men in this one-year project to provide life-saving information and services on sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence. The project support is critical in contributing to the current efforts by the government of Ethiopia to restore the health system damaged by conflicts and affected by COVID-19.
Japanese ambassador to Ethiopia, Eto Takako, said the project will be implemented for 1 year to prevent violence and support for women, especially in the Amhara and Benshangul Gumuz regions.
Both Amhara and Benshangul Gumuz regions have experienced an influx of IDPs and severe damage to health facilities, and the situation has been further worsened as a result of the conflict in the north. In particular, there is an urgent need of emergency assistance as a countermeasure to an increase in the maternal mortality and morbidity rates. Unintended pregnancy, early marriage, sexually transmitted infections, and GVV in both regions. Under these circumstances, Japan has agreed to provide grant aid of approximately $1 million to UNFPA in order to increase access to and availability of the quality, gender-based violence, and SRH information and services for vulnerable women, girls, adolescents, and youth.
Officials from the Embassy of Japan, the Ministry of Health, regional and zonal various government agencies are participated in the program.
The project, which is launched today here in Sheraton Addis by the cooperation of the Japanese government embassy to Ethiopia and the UNFPA, is aimed to help more than 80,000 women and girls, especially with the war-affected areas of Ethiopia in Amhara region and Benishangul Gumuz region. And the project is aimed to improve and eliminate gender-based violences and in order to increase reproductive health in the coming 1 year here in Ethiopia. I'm Johannes Fantahon for EVC.
Ethiopia and Tanzania have signed an agreement to work together on military sector. The agreement was signed between Lieutenant General Alamsha Degefe, head of the Mechanized Coordination Department of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and Lieutenant General Mase Mukungile, Army Chief of Staff of the Tanzanian Defense Forces. According to Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Alamsha Degefe said the agreement will enhance the cooperation between Ethiopia and Tanzania in the military sector. For his part, Lieutenant General Mukungile said the bilateral agreement will have a significant impact on the development of peace and security in the country and the region. He also thanked the delegation for the warm welcome.